Hey guys, it's Deborah. I wanted to do a video on Ariel Sharon. I wanted to give you guys a little bit of background about him, as well as I want to talk to you about what some of the future might hold and how it relates to Ariel Sharon's past. He was the former Prime Minister of Israel, and I know a lot of you probably know his history and stuff like that, but I didn't 100%, and I did some research on it and I found interesting things, and it will tie into what's happening in the world today, Bible prophecy, and what we have to look forward to, or what we think we will see in the near future. So let me just give you a quick history on him, and then I will get into some Bible prophecy stuff. Okay, so in September 2001, Sharon stated for the first time that Palestinians should have the right to establish their own land west of the Jordan River. In May 2003, Sharon endorsed the Roadmap for Peace, put forth by the United States, the European Union, and Russia, which opened a dialogue with Mahmoud Abbas and stated his commitment to the creation of a Palestinian state in the future. He embarked on a course of unilateral withdrawal from the Gaza Strip while maintaining control of its coastline and airspace. Sharon's plan was welcomed by both the Palestinian Authority and Israel's left wing as a step towards a final peace settlement. However, it was greeted with opposition from within his own Likud party and from other right-wing Israelis on national security, military, and religious grounds. On August 30th, 2005, which is actually my birthday, August 30th, Sharon controversially expelled 9,480 Jewish settlers from 21 settlements in Gaza and 4 settlements in the northern West Bank. Once it became clear that the evictions were definitely going ahead, a group of conservative rabbis led by Yosef Dayan placed an ancient curse on Sharon, known as the Pulsa Denura, calling on the angel of death to intervene and kill him. On December 20th, 2005, Sharon's longtime rival Netanyahu was elected his successor as leader of Likud. Following Sharon's incapacitation, Ehud Olmert replaced Sharon as Kadimah's leader for the nearing general elections. Likud, along with Labour Party, were Kadimah's chief rivals in the March 2006 elections. Sharon's stroke occurred a few months before he had been expected to win a new election and was widely interpreted as planned on clearing Israel out of most of the West Bank in a series of unilateral withdrawals. Sharon was hospitalized on December 18, 2005 after suffering a minor stroke during his hospital stay. Doctors discovered a heart defect requiring surgery and ordered bed rest pending a cardiac catheterization, a catheter, scheduled for January 5th, 2006. Instead, Sharon immediately returned to work and suffered a hemorrhagic stroke on January 4th, the day before the surgery. After 2 surgeries lasting 7 and 14 hours, doctors stopped the bleeding in Sharon's brain, but were unable to prevent him from entering into a coma. After spending 8 years in a coma, Sharon died at 1400 local time on January 11th, 2014. Wow, that's 111. Sharon's state funeral. Okay, we don't need to read that, but listen to that. After spending 8 years in a coma. So after he had attempted to divide Israel, he ended up being in a coma for 8 years and then passed away. And he died on 111. And I had said that means lawlessness in Strong's. Okay, so here it says Sharon's lasting legacy, the West Bank separation barrier. Like, that's his legacy. That's what he tried to do. And we see how that ended. I thought this was important to give you guys a history for anyone who didn't know. Yeah, I just wanted to tie it into now what is happening today with, what's happening in Israel. So let's get into it. First, I just want to read this verse in case anybody doesn't understand why it would even be a problem to divide Israel. Joel 3, verse 1, it says, "For behold, in those days and that time, when I restore the fortunes of Judah and Jerusalem, I will gather all the nations and bring them down to the valley of Jehoshaphat, and I will enter into judgment with them there on behalf of my people and my heritage Israel, because they have scattered them among the nations, and have divided up my land." So it literally says, because they divided up my land, I'm going to enter into judgment with the nations. So he's going to bring judgment on people who divide up the land. So there's so many more verses talking about, the land was given to Abraham, and, he sets up borders. So point being is, we're not supposed to do it. Okay, so I just want to touch on America divided for a little moment here, because clearly there's crazy things going on there. Where I am in Canada, nothing's really going on in that way. It's peaceful, but we have had protests in some cities, and it's all over the world now, which is crazy. It's absolutely, all over the world. And I just did a video recently saying a man in 1998 was shown, when there are riots around the world, that Jesus is at the door, literally at the door. And that video, I've said it many times. I just think it's accurate, because he said this way before this happened. So anyway, regardless, I want to touch on how they are divided right now and how that matters. So anyway, speaking of mattering, you have this sign here. You have the racial divide. So obviously that's the main divide that you're seeing right now within the United States. And then you obviously have the ongoing political divide. So you have a lot of division, and I'm going to touch on a news story and what just happened that relates to that. But before I touch on the division, and I'm going to wrap it all together at the end, I want to talk about who's not divided, but who's in unity right now, which is these two men. And they basically, these two leaders, they're who we're watching right now. Like, they were indicted at the same time or put under scrutiny at the same time. Trump, they were trying to get him out, and Netanyahu was indicted, but they stayed in. It lasted, and for a moment there, it looked like they weren't going to make this deal together. There was a time period where, there was no government, and Trump kind of was basically saying, well, I don't know what's going on over there, so, forget it. But now that they have their unity government, they're back on track for this peace deal. So what did I say? America's divided, but these two are trying to form peace. And they're doing it by dividing Israel. That's the only way to form the peace. We know the verse, for when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them. 1 Thessalonians 5:3. And so there's been attempts for a long time for this peace deal. You saw my whole initial part and research on Ariel Sharon shows this has been going on for a while. It's never been accomplished, though. This time, it looks like it is going to be in July. So if Ariel Sharon had that happen to him and he didn't even accomplish it, what are we looking at for this? And we have to look at the countries who are mainly involved. Back then, it was Russia, the European Union, the United States, and I think that was it, with Israel. This time, it's just the United States. And this time, it looks like it's solidified, okay? And I've said before, I don't think anyone else is ever going to be leading these two countries other than these two men, and then after that, the one world leader. So this is it, okay? So this is it. So I just want to talk to you a minute about what happened in the United States with the largest flag that ever has been created, American flag, ripping in two by a natural disaster. And I want to tie that into a little bit with iPet Goat. So I'm going to show you a quick clip, just for those of you who don't know what happened in the United States with the flag ripping, and two, with a storm. I'll show you a super quick clip of a news article. And then I will, I added a short clip from Brother Ty Green's latest video. Go check him out on his channel. His name is Ty Green. And he did a whole thing on the flag ripping and relating it to the short film iPet Goat, a predictive movie from the enemy. So I'm going to show you those two quick clips, and then I'm going to come back and talk to you guys again, because I'm tying it all into, the division in one country, peace and safety in another, but yet at the same time dividing that country that they're trying to say peace. So it's really all about division and what is that going to bring about. So I'm going to show you that quick news clip and then the iPet Goat clip, and then I'll come back talking to you guys.
Now, wind gusts around 90 miles per hour shredded the giant American flag that flies high outside Acuity Assurance in Sheboygan. Lance Allen shares the work that was done to properly replace it.
We call it the world's tallest symbol of freedom.
So imagine the shock last night when Acuity's American flag was torn.
That is by far the most damaged I've ever seen one of our flags. Yeah, it was, I've never seen anything like it.
So like you saw there from a big storm, there was that destruction of the flag, torn in two. And like I said, that was portrayed in the movie, and I'm just going to show you that now. So this is the clip from Brother Ty Green's latest video. Go check out his channel for the full video. But yeah, it comes when the goat is on lockdown. It comes when just before the Antichrist figure appears. And the flags have been torn before, but what did that woman say? She said it's never been torn to this level ever. So it's never been just ripped in two. Now, it was different if someone vandalized it and ripped it in two, but that didn't happen. It was a natural disaster that ripped in two, and it was the worst that ever happened, and it was the largest flag that has ever been ripped. So here's Ty Green's video, and then I'll come back, talk to you guys after that.
Hey everybody, Ty Green here. The largest free flying American flag in the whole world has been ripped in half by storms just the other night. You think this means anything? This flag is significant. It's 10,000 square feet, features stars that are over 5 feet high and nearly 3 feet across. This flag weighs 340 pounds. Once again, it's the world's largest free-flying American flag. The fact that it ripped in half as the country is divided is speaking volumes. And in the middle of a storm is when this happened. A literal storm, as well as a symbolic one on so many levels. You know what this flag ripped in half also reminds me of? And some of you remember this. And you know where the author of the film got the information from. We are in a spiritual warfare. Surely we have been for a while now, and we've shared the evidence of this ramping up. And this scene was in that presentation. The children of disobedience, Ephesians 2:2. Communicating with the spiritual wickedness in high places, Ephesians 6:12. They saw this too. It's not just a symbol of the state of our country. It's a visual time marker within the story of what comes next and who comes on the scene. And we know it all goes down during the time of the last president, before the fall of the world government and the rise of the Antichrist. The occult projected this in the film, and they are executing their plan, which began while the goat was on lockdown.
I think it's really important that we see here that the goat is on lockdown during this time period when the flag rips and brings about the Antichrist. So, yeah, that's important because the person who created the movie, the actual guy who made it, he said, I heard his interview. I listened to his interview, and he was basically saying that the goat is us. It's humans. We know we are sheep, okay? We are considered as like sheep, those who follow Christ. But he said, just in general, the human population are the goats. So that is who that is on lockdown, okay? They're locked up. That's a milking station. They're locked up in there while the flag is torn and all this stuff starts to ensue. So here we are. Okay, so back to the unity and division. Basically, the end result I'm trying to say is, while the United States is in chaos and completely divided, simultaneously, they're unifying another country or trying to bring peace and safety to another country. And by doing that, the only way to bring that peace is by dividing it, when I read you that verse, it says, if you divide God's land, you come under condemnation by the Lord. So we know what happened to Ariel Sharon when he attempted it, 8 years of a coma and then death. So when they're saying peace and safety, obviously this is actually being accomplished. We believe in July. Now, it could be pushed off, but Netanyahu only has 18 months in his term. So he's going to rush this, okay? It can be pushed off, but he's going to rush it. So I do believe it will happen in July, and it lines up with those blood moons I was talking about in my last video. Check out my last video if you don't know what I'm talking about. Now, I just want to touch on for a second the actual peace plan. It does call for a two-state solution. So like I wasn't 100% sure all the details, so I did more research on it. And yeah, so it's the annexation is what they're talking about happening in July. So it's just bringing about the beginning of the plan. Remember, here's the thing. The Bible says that the Antichrist will confirm a covenant with many for 7 years. This is not the covenant with many. That starts the tribulation, and he confirms an already existing plan. So this is fully set up. This is fully ready to go. And like I said, when Ariel Sharon started dividing or wanted to, that everything went crashing down. This guy's literally going to do it. And now if he does do it, I mean, that's completely it. But everything's lining up because, like I said, I believe they're the two last leaders of these countries. The Malachi prophecy says the Pope is the last Pope. Everything is the last, okay? So I guess I'm just trying to sum it up, going back to Ariel Sharon. So you see there that God doesn't play, okay? He doesn't play with this. So he is not going to allow them to take that land and make it a two-state solution. It's just not going to happen. But when you tie it in and match it up with all the other things that are happening, like the I Pet Goat movie, that it lines up with that flag tearing and the Antichrist entering the scene, and the goat was on lockdown during that time period, you can see this is it. Okay, this is the end. This is the sum up, unless all this is wrong. The Malachi prophecy is wrong. All the Christians that feel like, Netanyahu and Trump are the last two leaders of these countries, and they're gonna, there's prophecy saying Netanyahu will hand the keys over to Messiah and things like that, and that all of this is wrong. And then even that I Pet Goat movie is wrong, which has predicted many other things. Basically all that would have to be wrong. So what I'm saying is, with Ariel Sharon, it was like a precursor to what we're seeing now. That was like a warning, like, look what happens. 8 years of a coma and then death. Okay, but the countries, I don't know if the countries helping him at that time came under condemnation. They probably did, in a more minor way. There was European Union, Russia, and the United States. But his was the most, to me, I just saw that as a huge judgment, and I saw that was just so clear, okay? So, like, what happened to him? Mind you, they said that a curse was put on him, I don't know, but that just, to me, it just said it all. Okay, and so right now, what are we looking at? July, we're looking at the annexation, which, to me, is basically the number one step to, I guess, implement this whole thing. The plan hasn't been fully accepted, so everything's not fully there just yet. But remember, this plan is never going to be, I believe, to full fruition, because it has to it can't be fully accepted, because the Antichrist is the one who confirms it. He basically has to make it stronger. It's something that's there, that's sitting, that's ready, but it's not either being fully implemented or whatever. But the fact that these people want to do it and are about to do it, that's what brings upon God's wrath and anger. Because look, when you see with Ariel Sharon, he didn't fully even accomplish it, but they're taking it a step further. This is the plan, the peace deal of the century. This is the one that's actually, the most, I guess, the closest to what would be the 7-year covenant with many. So what I'm trying to say is, you have to take all these pieces and put them together. The blood moon tetrad I just talked about in my last video, which is actually more like a pink moon, but basically it falls on right when the pandemic started. And then 2 more moons right in June and July, when there's these riots around the entire world. So we're not focusing on the United States. We're focusing, this is now maybe coming out of there because it's the leader of the free world, but it's the entire world is now doing this, most of the world, and protests, I should say, not riots, protests. And then you have also the annexation in July. So that is huge. And then the last blood moon ends in November, when is the elections. Now, it could either be that we continue on and then we have the elections and the rapture and tribulation hasn't happened yet, or, and that's why that blood moon is there, or it could be that the rapture and tribulation do happen in around the June-July time period, and then the November time period, instead of it being the elections, it's the time when all the pieces are picked up after all the destruction happens, because things come down, I believe, as we go up, and a big earthquake and all this kind of stuff. This is what I believe. And then in November, the Antichrist would just step on the scene, calm things down, and confirm that and make stronger this already existing covenant with many. He would make it stronger, okay? And so that could be what is going to happen. Now, I'm putting all these pieces together because I really wanted to show you guys what happens when you divide the land of Israel, and that is what we're living in right now. We're living in, and if you're in a country that is doing that, being the U.S., or Israel, those are the two lands that are going to come under condemnation. But I believe that what is going to happen is, it's because it's the end of the end, the whole world is going to, it's going to change the whole world, because we're going to step into the Great Tribulation. And I believe in a pre-tribulation rapture from the scripture research that I've done. So anyway, I thought that was really interesting. And like I said, the iPad Goat movie tied in with the flag ripping. I think that whole thing was, just the next sign that we can see, the enemy showing, and God is revealing things to people, to Christians. And so we don't know if the deal is going to be pushed off. We don't know if the annexation is going to be pushed off a little bit, or will it line up with this tetrad coming up of these blood moons? And will that kind of, the Lord said that, you'll see signs in sun, moon, and stars. And when these things begin to come to pass, look up, for your redemption draweth nigh. And those things beginning to come to pass are the signs in sun, moon, and stars, if you look at Luke 21. So I did a lot of research on that. So basically what we're looking for is these signs up above, and then we know that's when they begin to come to pass, that's when you look up, okay? So basically, we're looking at the sky and we're seeing signs, and then we're seeing on earth what is exactly happening, and it's perplexity of nations and all these things. It's coming to pass just as it said. And again, it's all lining up. Like I said, the Malachi prophecy, the last pope, like all these last men, these are the last men. These are the last leaders. There's not going to be another, not Babylon. There's Mystery Babylon, but there's not going to be another great Nebuchadnezzar, another great, kingdom and great. We're looking at that gold statue that Daniel saw, and we are the toes, and it's over, so I'm saying there's not going to be more of these men and more of these situations and more of these people. There were precursors, like there was, Antiochus Epiphanes, who was a precursor. He desolated the temple, and he was a precursor to the Antichrist. But the point is, Ariel Sharon was a precursor to this. It was like a warning. It was like showing us what will happen on a way greater magnitude. And so, like I said, if you put all these pieces together, this is where it left me off. I wanted to share it with you guys because there's so much division in one country, and yet they're claiming unity and peace in another while dividing it. So basically, the wheat and the tares are being divided, the sheep and the goats are being divided, and land is being divided, and soon, we're going to be in a new dispensation. We're going to be out of the dispensation of grace, and we're going to be in the time of the tribulation, and the sheep will be gone. So, I guess that's it. I hope that was informative for you guys, and that you learned something, and that I tied in some things for you guys, and also that you're looking up, because you can clearly see that the time is drawing near. I don't mean near soon, in 100 years, 10 years, 15 years. I mean you can see by June, July, if that annexation happens, that is bringing about sudden destruction. And it says, they shall not escape. And that same word escape, I've talked about many times in Strong's, is the same word that says, pray you're accounted worthy to escape all that is coming upon the world. So somebody doesn't escape, somebody does escape. So that's your blessed hope. That's what you're looking for, is escaping the hour that's coming upon the whole world. And this is the hour now. So sorry I droned on at the end there, but hopefully it was interesting and informative. And we will keep looking up, for our redemption draws nigh. So until next time, guys, God bless and shalom.